The first playable version is on PC test servers right now. So this video is all about what changes are there and how to test it out properly. As far as PC test servers goes, it's 100% free, free to download, free to play, free to test. So go out there and test it. Why not, huh? All that's required is a PC and space to actually download it. Sorry, PS3, PS4, and Xbox do not have test servers. All testing is done on PC. So please go out and test this very important game update, if you're able to. Links to all information, stats, matter, stats revamp is in the description box below. Check it out. Please visit the links and read for yourself. And test. Once again, this video is all about what changes there are and how to test it out properly. That being said, all information is subject to change at any time on test server. This is the test after all. So anyways, let's begin. Now, first off, what changes are there on test server right now? Once again, all information is subject to change. Feel free at any time to pause this video and read along. Enjoy and test. Okay, so this is a read along pretty much. Pause the video whenever you feel like it to just read. However, for those of you who actually just want to hear some audio, I'll read it for you. And I'm going to be doing it word for word because, well, if you want my personal opinion on stuff, there's the other video for you to watch. Anyway, the first playable stats revamp. The first playable version of this stat revamp is now available on our testing servers for the public test servers. Okay, maybe not word for word. Anyway, all players are invited. PC membership is not currently required to access the test servers, and Daybreak accounts are free. We're looking forward to hearing from your feedback. To get started, you can download the test client on PC by clicking on the link. However, you can't click on the link in the video, so you're going to have to go to descriptions, and it will take you there. What is Stats Revamp? Stats Revamp is a total revamp of all the numbers in the game. The revamp will remove combat differential, advanced mechanics, and weapon mastery, bonus damage, and power points. It will also modify skill points, supercharges, power, and power regen, and essentially how all power sets and weapon abilities work. Why Stats Revamp? Because why the hell not? Okay, anyway. Revamping Stats will build a stronger foundation for the game, clarifying game mechanics, allowing for a meaningful character choices, and open up exciting new opportunities for future systems and combat development. In short, it will make the game more fun for everybody. In a nutshell, with the new system being put in place, if they actually wanted to, and they actually said this, but this is quote-unquote for them, okay? They actually said this. We have no plans on doing this, but with the new system, if we wanted to, we could add a new power to any of the powers right now. For instance, fire could have a new attack, or a new buff, or a new anything. We could add anything to it now, because there is no power trees anymore. We could just draw a new power into any power we wanted to. Same thing goes for your weapon attacks, etc. Anyway, let's get back on task. So, what is in the first playable version of Stats Revamp? The first version of Stats Revamp is moving on to test today, which is a couple days ago. Anyway, meaning it is an incomplete and early in the development process. Essentially, nothing in this build is final. This version of the revamp will allow you to experience the overall stat changes to the system and content, as well as focus on the first three important powers: ice, mental, and electricity. They want you to play with these powers with a focus on how they feel overall, and look for specific abilities that are too strong or too weak, or not functioning, or no longer useful. Now, as far as testing also goes, while doing so, we want you to level naturally through the level 1 through level 30 game and beyond to the actual tiered content. We have completed the large, broad adjustments on all of the numbers in the game, including the NPCs, and NPCs will have stats now. Of course, they always had stats, but they will really have stats now. Anyway, you will also have stats. So we have not completed adjustments to specific fights, bosses, or mechanics individually. Many of those, like things that we have manually rebalanced over the years, will need further fine-tuning. Building a foundation. One of the primary reasons for the revamp is to make sure we open up design space for DCUO to be able to, well, grow in. There are many systems we want to create, and this will provide the foundation to build on. With the new updates to our system, we will be able to grow them to even cooler and more interesting heights than before. We have successfully stubbed the areas for new builds, new item types, new abilities, etc. We have created room to grow far into the future. After Stats Revamp hits live, you create these sort of new additions and the content updates afterwards. Kind of like what I said about being able to add new stuff in there, such as new powers to the powers. And then also adding more stats to the stats windows. Yeah. Anyway. Cutting out confusion. We took this opportunity to remove confusion whenever possible. Our main goal here is to take out things that didn't work together, were organized in a confusing or misleading way, or were pushing us in the wrong direction. I won't go too much into it, but we're removing a lot of things. Pretty much the order of the day is simplify, simplify, complexify. Wait, does that make it? Anyway. We want DCUO to have contrasting simple and complex elements. In order to do so, we need to make sure most components, such as abilities, skills, combos, etc., are simple enough to understand alone. We feel that using these elements together is what creates complexity. That doesn't mean that we're dumbing anything down, we're actually making the puzzle easier to understand, but harder to complete. Creating meaningful choices. This is one of my favorite ideas. Yeah, I guess it would be. Actually, it's pretty one of mine. Anyway, too, but anyway. We made many changes that will allow you to make choices between 2 or more good options. We also wanted to make sure that we could add more choices in the future. In order for this to be the case, we had to make sure that we didn't force you into, well, didn't force your hand in making character choices. We loosened many restrictions to make that happen. In other words, you know how you guys pick a power and, well, if you're going to be an ice tank, this is the loadout you need or you're going to suck. Or if you want to be a fire tank or fire DPS, or you want to be munitions, you got to use this loadout. It's going to suck. If you want to be an ice DPS, you better use this loadout. Anything else is going to suck. Or if you want to be earth or whatever. Yeah. More choices now. Do what you want based on your playstyle. Alright, now moving on to changes. Once again, I'd like to remind everybody that everything in here is subject to change. This is test servers, after all. Subject to change in the middle of testing, based on feedback. So get out there and test, guys. Now, changes. Now that they have regaled you all on what we're shooting for, let me tell you what we're actually changing, or what actually has changed. The short answer is nearly everything. We made sure to stay within the confines of what makes DCUO unique and interesting, but within those confines, we've adjusted quite a lot. Here are the areas we worked on and changes that you can expect to see. Usability updates. Now this covers a lot of shit, which are as follows. Power trees. Power trees have been removed and replaced with a new UI. As you level up and get new powers for free, you will have the option to use any of the powers from your power pool. We have also added some usability upgrades here, featuring notifications on dodge, block, breakout, and roll buffs. Anything in your powers UI will be sorted by level. Skill points, finally! Skill points have received numerous upgrades and are now completely awesome. Well, they were already... Anyway. We consolidated all skill points that grant stats into one tree. For those of you who don't know what that means, there are stats inside all of the weapon trees, if you guys have probably already noticed them. And there's also stats inside the iconic trees. You know, ones at the bottom, such as Nano Weave, Wisdom of Solomon, etc., etc. Basically the 2 bottom rows of iconic powers. Anyway, we consolidated all of the skill points that grant stats into one tree that no longer requires you to spend points into weapons to unlock, or into iconics to unlock. As you spend points into a particular stat, the bonus you get per point increases. This means that the more points you spend to a stat, the more you get. Furthermore, you can choose whatever stat you want with very few pre-requirements or prerequisites. A couple of things to note regarding skill points. We have reorganized weapons tree and added tooltips that show scaling amounts for stats. Ability tooltips. We went through every ability tooltip and simplified them in an effort to make them more understandable. We also included some new ability tags. They look like this, the parentheses and shit like that, to clarify the intent of the ability. Supercharges. This is going to be such a good thing, especially with, adding more creativity to actually loadouts, being able to pick what you want now. Anyway, Supercharges, or the Supercharge update, is definitely the foundation of the system. We made large adjustments, but there are more adjustments to be done in the future. The Supercharge update allows you to gain Supercharges much more quickly. In fact, every ability you use now generates some amount of Supercharge, getting you ready to use your preferred Supercharge much more quicker than ever before. If you prefer to use your Supercharge more quickly, use your Supercharge generator power, or Supercharge generator power, that each power set has access to. There might even be some more mods out there to even help you. Actually, there are mods out there now. Notice some of the head mods or some of the back mods now. Yeah. Power Regeneration. I've liked everything I've heard about Stats Matters, because it takes it back to how the game first was, because I'm a beta player, so I remember how the game was when I first started playing this during beta and during launch, and for at least a year or so afterwards, before they actually changed it. However, well, I don't want to put any bias on this at all, but this was one of the first few things that actually scared me. It's the only thing I've ever been scared about. That's it. But let me read it first. Remember, I'm not going to be biased on it because I'm not on test server. Maybe it all works out and it just reads bad. I don't know, maybe from my point of view. Power Regen update. The main focus of this update is to put the power in your hands. Pun intended. Generating power is more active than it has been before. With great power comes great responsibility. This means you will have to take an active part in managing your power. You will need to consider power consumption, where you choose your loadout, choose items, choose the content you're playing, choose your skill points, etc. You will also need to consult your local controller or local controllers, aka 2 of them, while in a group. We had to tread carefully when making changes to powers because we know it is so integral to a controller's identity. Our aim is to make controllers communicate with each other and the people in the raids for keeping power maintained. One of the ways you made power regenerations more active is by adding a percentage-based power heal to each weapon attack. This means that as you attack with a weapon, your power will be healed a small amount based on the attack's duration. Not to be confused with currently with the more you combo, you get back power. This is now the longer your attack is, the more power you get back. As your power pool grows, so does each individual heal. These heals are not influenced by vitalization. If you run out of power, take a break from using your tray abilities, aka your power abilities, and start weapon attacking. We also gave each player a self-power heal over time, aka a pot move. So in case you don't want to use weapons, period, you can just use powers. In case you opt out to make a tray casting build, aka. The power heal from this is also a percentage of your max power pool and does not benefit from vitalization. So, if you're a non-controller and enjoy using expensive tray abilities, moves that take a lot of power, you'll want to invest heavily in power so that you can cast your abilities more often. So now, instead of just going full might or going full precision for your DPSing, or just going full restoration, or just going pure, well, I guess that's about it, or going just pure dominance, you're going to want to invest something into power so that you can cast your moves more often. The bigger your power bar, the more powers you can actually use. Flat out. There is so much more I can say about Power Regen updates. So much more. But we're going to say that till later when I can just say everything. However, I will say this. And I do want to note that this will feel dramatically different than what's on live. We would really like feedback in this area. Ability standardization. This part is great. Remember when I mentioned that we were defining the foundation? This is a big part of it. During this process, we've categorized abilities by cost, cooldown, cast time, throughput, which means like damage, healing, etc., and AE size. Anything that didn't fit into a category got changed. There were lots of abilities that didn't fit, and so we adjusted them. You might be saying to yourself, this is a ability homogenization? But we promise it isn't. We have to set up the standards so that we can actually cast an ability you generally would want to expect. With that in mind, we broke the rules all over the place so that each power has a unique and fun ability. One of the things we wanted to do while going through abilities was to minimize what role changing would do to an individual ability and instead let your stats determine that. In general, we removed role changes to abilities. However, there are some cases where we felt it was appropriate. The last thing we did was change power interactions. There is no longer abilities that add power interactions and exploit them. While we reserve the right to do this in the future, most abilities now will either add or exploit power interactions. NPC stat update. Stats for NPCs have been completely rebalanced across the board for smoother progression and combat that feels better. NPCs will generally take longer to knock out, especially at higher levels, so fights will start off pretty easy and progress to more dangerous as you progress through in strength. This means groups will need to work together and master content mechanics, not just hope for an overpowered burn to carry them through. With this rebalance, we're looking to avoid one-shots almost entirely. If you're in content and notice one-shots remain, please report it and any other NPC stat feedback in the appropriate content feedback thread. But that's for testing, so we'll get to that later. And the last part of the changes is the combo counter. In our last and most exciting change, the combo counter now triggers off of every ability and attack. You're probably wondering how is that actually any different. Well, okay, put it this way. It also no longer has any impact on power regeneration. Yes, as of right now, combos are used to get your power back. The more you combo, the more power you get back. Combos will no longer get your power back. You will have to, as I said earlier, Tact duration. The longer attack remains on, the more power you get back. Now, the video is going to move a lot faster, so let's get this over with, right? Anyway, because this is actually catching up to the other video. I wanted this to be shorter, but yeah, look at it. Anyway, now for stats and progression. Stats, what do they do? For the most part, stats do the same thing they've always done. Restoration increases healing, vitalization increases power healing, precision and weapon DPS increases your weapon attack damage, etc. However, there are some nuances as well. Might now increases power of all superpowers, including combo powers. As you guys might remember, certain powers are might based and certain powers are precision based. Now all powers are might based, including the combo powers. While this won't be important in the first preview, it will be important soon. Power is now a very important stat that allows you to continue casting, as I said earlier. If you're using your self-power heal and constantly feel drained, it's definitely worth investing in this stat. The more expensive your abilities, the more power you'll want. For optimal performance, you'll want a mixture of power and your respective DPS or healing stat, aka might or restoration. Please remember, precision now is strictly for weapons. There isn't a single power in the game now that will let you use precision for that power. All powers are now might. I don't think I have to go over this now, but Earth, which is precision on live, is might now on test. So is hard light, so is rage, so is celestial, so is you know, sorcery. Of course, you're probably saying that, yeah, those all have might in it, but they also have precision. No, we're talking about everything now is just full on might. Might. Anyway, let's move on. Defense and toughness. We adjusted the formula for these to remove the defense cap. Yay! Fucking finally! Anyway, defense and toughness now has a very predictive impact on your effective health. 10% more defense equals 10% more effective health. Dominance now has a considerably stronger impact on shield. Restoration still improves shields, but for the best results, you'll want to focus mostly on dominance. Where do stats come from? Man, they'd be having fun on this, don't they? Where do baby stats come from? We adjusted the value on every item in-game to make the stat gain smooth, consistent, and predictable. In addition, we shifted the distribution of stats to better reflect the amount of effort it took to gain those stats. For quick reference, see the chart below. Keep in mind these numbers are subject to change as we continue to incorporate your feedback and refine balance. Also keep in mind that everything in this video is subject to change too. So yeah, this is live test, so, well, just test, I mean. I don't want to say live, get people confused. Just test, just test, just test. And here's that chart. This is stat source and the weight of those decisions towards your stats. Now this can be interpreted many ways, percentages wise, or, well, like full percentages wise, or points wise, but this is how I'm seeing it, and I might be wrong. Please feel free to comment in the section below on this. Now, where it says equipped gear full, that means you're wearing the full equipped gear. Everything that you have on right now, you're wearing gear in every single socket that you can possibly have gear in. That weight will carry 100% towards your stats, which is like it is right now. Pretty much, it's just like it is. So what that means is, as far as going towards your stats, 100% of your gear goes towards your stats. That's what it means. 100% of your gear goes towards your stats. AKA, your gear will affect your stats 100%. 100%, there's no going beyond that. Now, picture each one of these as being its own separate category. So, of course, as you add those up, you're way beyond 100%, right? Because the first one's 100%, but picture every single thing as a separate category. Every single thing is a separate category. Like, it could have had a possibility of 100%, but it doesn't, you know? Another way of saying it is get away from percentage. Think of effect. Think of effect. Think of single. For instance, the first one is equipped gear. That's by itself, nothing else is on the board. Think of it that way. By itself, equipped gear is going to affect your stats completely. 100% completely. Alright, that's done. Next thing. Now, skill point stats. By itself, it will affect your stats 30. Or 30%, whatever you want to say. And that's just by itself. Now, by itself also, character, or base character stats will affect your stats 20 fold. Or just 20. Gear mods, when you have all 10, 22. Generator mods, when you have all 4, 10. Socket affinity bonuses, when you have all 10, 5. Trinket buffs, 5. Consumable buffs, 5. Alright, this part gets a little bit tricky, but I'm sure it's just the way they're wording it, or maybe the way I'm interpreting it, but whatever. Overall, this means your mods, generator mods, and skill points will have a larger impact on your total stats, while equipped gear and active buffs will have a reduced impact. This also means players will be rewarded for investing in their characters, so a player at 100 CR with very high skill points and full mods may be stronger than a player at 120 CR with lower skill points and no mods. Combat rating is no longer king, and combat differential no longer exists. Also, your primary source of crit is your skill points, now conveniently located in its own skill tree, stat points, and crit will have a major impact on your performance. so get those feats. Tactical mods have been significantly reduced in power. As a general rule, each tactical mod should contribute about 2% to your total performance. Note that this is an area we plan to expand in the future to give more choices and customization in builds and play styles. Important to note, outside of elite content, we do not expect players to be completely maxed out in the best gear, best mods, or max skill points for their level. As a rough guideline, try to keep up with your mods and keep your skill points close to your CR. For our hardcore players, we have not rebalanced elite content yet, but when we do, we expect you to bring your A game. In the meanwhile, elite affinity bonuses are now percentage based or percent based. Enjoy it. Roles. With the removal of AM and weapon mastery as far as just their bonus damage and power back, and other stat adjustments, roles should now be specifically closer to each other in damage. While healer, troll, and tank should still focus on healing, controlling, and tanking first, they also now play a major part in defeating encounters quickly. Hybrid builds should now be a viable option, and solo cont should no longer be a slug or whatever, or crawl or whatever short, for anyone who focuses on non-damage roles. DPS players, DPSs or damage players, are still kings of damage, but the difference between the damage each role can do is significantly less, and the benefits of having the other role is arguably significantly more. Tip: bring more non-damage roles to your fight and watch them own it. We're excited to finally give you a taste of what we've been working on for so long. Let us know what you think. That's in test when you test it out, which we'll get to later. And now for weapons. The changes below will allow anyone to use any weapon combo without everyone feeling the need to do the same combos. Below is a list of changes you will see. What's different? All weapon attacks have a normalized damage multiplier based on the individual attack's animation length instead of the full combo length, which is also how Power Regeneration now is based as far as your weapon. Example, attacks like Smoke Bomb are no longer boosted because they are deep in the chain. All melee attacks have a boost in damage compared to ranged attacks. As with superpowers, single target attacks have a small damage boost multiplier. Weapon passives no longer give you a hidden crit bonus, because, well, crit is purchased in the stats tab now, or stats points tab, or whatever you want to call it. Like I said, all that stuff's subject to change, so maybe it's actually called stats tab now. Power Regen is based on length of animation to dovetail, or pulse time if channeled. This means all attacks regens comparable power per second. Combo meter no longer affects power regen, and cross weapon combos from weapon mastery do not regen power but deal more damage. Fly text has been turned on so that you will see the blue numbers when you attack. For those of you who aren't trolls, blue number is your power back. Ranges have been normalized. All weapon attacks that counter will only counter one target and only when the available is used. No pulsing counters. Weapon mastery now boosts precision and weapon DPS, while the weapon is equipped instead of boosting specific attacks. Cross weapon combos from weapon mastery have boosted damage, but no longer trigger a bonus to superpowers. Supercharged regen is based on the length of the animation to dovetail, or whatever we're going to call it, or pulse time if channeled. This means all attack regens comparable supercharges per second. Alright, we are finally getting to the end. Finally, we're on the actual powers themselves, and that's all I'm going to talk about this update. So we're finally getting to the end. No more, well, you know what. But, keep an open mind on everything, guys. An open mind. Okay, so this is Ice. Your self-power return is now Cold Snap. Remember, every power is getting a pot move, aka a self-power return. Now that, as it says self, that means it only works for you and for no one else. So your pot move that only works for you and no one else in ice will be Cold Snap. Your weapon buff will be Ice Bass, and your Supercharged generator will be Impelling Ice. Think of your Supercharged generator as this is the move that will more greatly earn you a supercharge faster than anything else. In layman's terms, all abilities have been rebalanced for range, cost, damage, cooldown, and CC. Other major ability changes are as follows, and keep in mind that not everything is actually up here that's been changed. Only some stuff has been added here to say. So yeah, this will probably change as the game goes on. Keep in mind, guys, everything here is subject to change, which is why I'm telling people to please test stuff out, give them back some feedback, and we'll see some stuff say, we might see stuff improved, might see stuff changed. Yes. Anyway, let's go on to the changes. Cold Snap is now a self-power heal ability. Nice, right? Glacier Flash is an execute. Impelling Ice is now a CC and Supercharged generator. CC crowd control. Snowball is now always AoE. AoE, area of effect. Winter Ward and Reflection have swapped visuals. Alright, so you guys that actually play Ice, they're going to look like the other one, pretty much. So Reflection gives you that shield, right? That little bubble. Winter Ward's not going to do that. And Winter Ward gives you that, like, flowing wind. Reflection's not going to do that. Bitter Winds is no longer a shield. Not a shield whatsoever. It is now a damage aura. Freeze Wave, renamed to Frost Slam. Resonating Gale is now a ranged CC. Shattered Restraints no longer grants a shield. Snow Devil no longer CCs enemies. Deep Freeze is now an AoE CC. Frostbite, remove most root in case ice-filled interactions. With the AMs gone, there's no need for AM abilities. Some say they make sense, but for the most part, stuff's gone. Now, that I know some people, especially for the actual tanks, seems like a lot of just bad right there, right? It gets a lot better, though. This actually will start making sense, and it kind of compensates for that. Ice Armor is now a defense buff. That's right, back just how it was back when beta started when this game launched. Ice Armor is now a defense buff after using a shield. It no longer improves damage. Sorry, DPS. This means that tanks can now actively fight instead of blocking. You will no longer lose defense capabilities related to block as long as you keep your Ice Armor active. AKA, let's go battle tanks. That's right. Some good news, right? Alright, so that's it for Ice. Let's see about Mental. While I'm saying these powers, keep in mind that on test right now, since we're testing out powers at a slow rate, you can only be 3 powers. You can't pick any other power. You're either Ice, you're either Mental, or you're Electricity. That's how it is. And it makes sense if you think about it, because all those powers can be DPSs. However, Ice can be a tank, Mental can be a troll, and Electricity can be a healer. So it makes sense for just those 3 to get them all right, and then you'll still be able to go through the game because you have all the roles you need. Now for Mental. This is the one thing that I was kind of dreading because there's a lot of changes. This has the most changes, and this pretty much means the changes that are happening to this power will happen to the other troll powers, as things that happen to the Ice for tank will happen to the other tank powers, and as things for Electricity that are healing will happen to the other heal powers also. So try to keep an open mind, especially with this, because quite frankly, I don't want to influence anything, but quite frankly, Nothing about Stats Matter has scared me at all. I would loved every single thing, but then I heard about this, and I'm not even a troll. But keep an open mind, because, well, I'm not on test, and maybe it's all good. Maybe there's excellent feedback. Maybe it's actually working. Who knows? Not on test. I'm going to read the test forums after this, though, to make sure, but okay. Anyway, let's get to this. Okay, for mental, the self-power return is Psychic Resonance. The weapon buff is Menace, and the supercharge generator is Thought Bubble. Keep in mind, all abilities have been rebalanced for range, cost, damage, cooldown, and CC. So what has changed? Oh god, remember CC is crowd control. Telekinesis no longer grants power over time while in control role. Telekinetic Push no longer performs CC. Telekinetic Bolt no longer performs CC. Psychic Empowerment no longer buffs might or precision. Psychic Resonance gives power over time to self. Grants power over time to group while in control role. Invisibility no longer applies passive bonuses, or a passive bonus. Thought Bubble no longer performs mass Thought Bubble while in controller role. Menace no longer panics or benefits from terror. Pyrokinesis inflicts burning, but no damage over time. Also, no longer benefits from CC states. Terror Tendrils no longer stun or grant power over time while in controller role. Terrorize now benefits from terror rather than applying it, and will no longer stun or panic. Psychic Shot no longer stuns. Phantom Flames no longer stuns or inflicts burning. Shouldn't I change that? Anyway. Mass Terror is now a point-blank AoE and will no longer panic targets. Convalence no longer performs Breakout. Bastion no longer reflects damage. Generally, restoring power for a group is now a separate choice from performing damage and crowd control. No need to toss wobbly tentacles at everybody to generate power anymore. That's a lot to take in, right? And I haven't even got to the other thing, which I'll mention now because I said I was going to early in the video. Actually, I take that back. Let me get to the end and then I'll talk about it, because trust me, you're not going to forget that quickly. So let's just get to the end. And finally, electricity. Whew. Finally. Okay, so electricity. Your self-power return is Electrocharge. I know that sounds kind of weird. Electrocharge? What? Huh? What the? Repulse has replaced Electrocharge, or, my bad. Electrocharge has replaced Repulse. Okay, so your self-weapon buff is Wired. Your Supercharge generator is Static Push. All abilities have been rebalanced by range, cast, damage, cooldown, and CC. So what else is different with electricity? Remember, there's not a lot of changes for electricity because every single power in the game has had its second AM update except for electricity. So there wasn't that much to take away because there really was nothing there, if you think about it. It did have an AM, but it didn't have its really official second update, so yeah. It's more of now just adding and taking away from a few things. Anyway, Repulse has been replaced by Electrocharge, which is your self-power heal. Wire, and all weapon buffs, is now only for the user. Ionic Drain is the same in both roles and is intended as a single target DPS execute ability. It still has some flavor heals though. Biocapacitor heals you and 7 group members for both heals. The Biocharge power interaction has been removed. Electro Burst and Voltic Bolt no longer deal damage over time. Now, I know what you're saying, because that was the first thing on my mind when I heard that. Like, you're getting rid of that? What the holy hell? Like, of all the things to get, you're getting rid of the safety net that electricity has? Well, no they're not, as you can read right here. And if you just look just at what the developer says, well, the reply was, no biocharge, does that mean no safety net heals? And he replies, the safety net heals are still there, but a bigger heal and shorter duration. Speaking of shorter durations, it's time to talk about what I was kind of trying to avoid. As you guys have heard from this update, we're getting all types of new stuff. Powers, all the powers now, all the roles now have a pot move. A self-power over time, or known as a self-power heal over time. Gives you back energy. Along with you just using weapon combos, you can use your pot move. It's at your choice whether you want to use one or the other. However, everyone has one now, right? Now, on top of that, controls have been, well, as you saw from there, controllers have lost all CC effects while in controller role. All of them. On top of that, pot has been greatly reduced. Okay, currently in-game on live right now, when you cast a pot power, it's up there for 20 to 24 seconds. You know, if you're really good at it, you know how to make it last 24 seconds. All pot has been cut down to 6 seconds. That's right, 6 seconds. On top of that, pot moves now have a noticeable as all hell cooldown. It's long. You know when you use a shield, the type of cooldown that, yeah, just like that. And I'm saying shield because almost every power besides fire and gadgets has a shield. Well, technically gadgets have it. Well, we're not going to go into that. Anyway. Yeah, we're talking that type of cooldown. That type of cooldown. In other words, you won't be able to keep pot up by yourself in, say, a raid. You're going to need another troll. And that's what's happening. That is exactly what's happening. When people go into raids now, they're using the 2-2-2-2 system. 2 DPSs, 2 healers, 2 trolls, 2 tanks. It's really going back to how this game used to be when it first started. Which I actually kind of like. So I have no problem with that. The only thing I have a problem with is, I don't troll whatsoever, so I don't really care. But I do care, because I don't want people to look bad on this yet until they actually get their hands on it and try it in test. Not on live, in test, because I don't want this on live if it sucks. I want people to test it out and see if this actually works before we start jumping to conclusions. I want to see if this actually works. But, you know, just going by what I'm reading here on these forums, every power is going to have a heal back mechanic, so it kind of looks like we're still going to need a troll, because it kind of looks like every power is going to really consume your power. And it seems like, as for trolls, if you want to have continuous pot non-stop, you're going to need to use those 2 trolls because of the cooldown. So one troll uses their pot move, and then there's like a 12-second cooldown. Then the other troll puts up their pot move, and then there's a, you know, 12-second cooldown. And it kind of rotates back and forth if they're doing it right and timing it right. So it takes a lot of watching, a lot of communication. So it's really going back to the old school feel of this game. So I actually kind of like that. But at the same time, it kind of scares me, because even though I don't troll, I think this might turn people off of trolling. Some people might decide to just say, I'll pick a different role, fuck it. We might maybe see the end of trolls. But I don't want to go to any assumptions right there. Like I said, I'm not on test. I can't make any assumptions. I don't want to assume. I want to read the feedback on this and see what people are saying. See how they feel. And see if my assumptions may be right or if they may be wrong. You know, I don't want to make any assumptions. Which is why I'm urging everybody that is listening to this video and watching it to just go to the forums, rip for the information yourself, read it, and if you can, if you're on PC, it is 100% free to do. For the love of God, please test this out. Speaking of which, time for the next topic. Now for the very last section, how to test it out properly while on the test servers. And I do mean properly. There's a way to do things and a way to not do things. So listen closely to this. Testing instructions. Download and log into the test servers. If you actually go to the forums, link in the description below, you'll be able to actually click on that link and go straight to where you need to go to get this information. So download and log into the test servers. Once logged in, you'll find that you have no characters. Well, that's how test server is. It always changes, always updates. Create a new one as ice, mental, or electricity. Play and level up naturally. And then those are the forms right there that you're supposed to click on to give back your feedback. Making sure you go into the appropriate dread. There are several there. Remember to look at those. Now, it is imperative that these testing feedback dreads remain only for feedback from testers. Off-topic comments from those not testing will be removed. Repeated offenders will be removed from the forums entirely. General questions about the overall revamp should stay in this dread, and feedback should be posted in the appropriate dreads above. The ones listed below. So I'll put a link to everything in the description, and I'll leave it up to you guys to look at it. Okay, next thing. Here is a quick start guide. This is the place for finding out how to jump in and get started on tests. Create a new ice, electricity, or mental character. Be sure to create your own costume using the custom option, because the inspired by options will most likely not have powers set associated with them, so you could end up having like a character that's a brick, can't do crap. Play content and let us know what you think. Pointers for setting up your loadouts. If you're using ability trees, which means all powers, be sure to use your self-power heal ability in your loadout. Be sure to spend as many skill points as you can. If you're using your weapons to get back your power, remember to, rinse and repeat. Use your powers. When you get low, use your weapon to get back power. Okay. If you are a controller, be sure to have your 2 power heals in your tray. Yes, that's right. You're going to have 2 power trills. One to give back power to yourself, and one to give power to the group. Yeah, controllers will need 2. Anyway, note that your group power heal over time only lasts 6 seconds now. Yeah. In order to keep it up full time, you will need to have 2 controllers. That's because the cooldown is that long that you're going to need someone else to actually apply the pot now to keep it up. If you want to attack primarily with weapons, you should make sure your weapon buff is in your tray. Now when it comes to feedback, I hope that's given you some insight into the changes and philosophy behind the stats revamp. At least enough to sink your teeth into and get started testing. Please use this dread for feedback related to the overall changes addressed here, and please visit the more specific dreads for the rest of the team for more specific feedback. Now let's jump back to the last one. Finally, thank you. The stats revamp is one of the largest system updates we've ever done. We are so excited to finally have a playable version on test, and what the revamp will mean for the game's future. Your early feedback and help testing will be essential to the revamp's overall success, and for that we cannot thank you enough. Happy testing. With that being said, please guys, visit the forums, read more information, and please go down and test this out. This is going to be game breaking, game changing. As I said in every other stat video, it's pretty much going to do what's happened to Destiny. When Destiny first came out, it was a game that people were playing it, but it never lived up to the hype. People hated it. And then the expansion came out, and it made it a completely new game. This is pretty much going to be DCUO 2. Pretty much DCUO 2. So, I want to get out of here, guys. I've taken up enough of your time. Just remember, please get out there and test this game. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching this video. This is DrkBLADExx of Dark Enforcers, aka Black Hawk Division Leader for DCUO. Dark Enforcers, Darkness Rises. And thank you for actually staying here and watching this long video. See you later.